Since Harry looked very upset, even he was not just upset, he was tired of his life. He felt completely hopeless, as if there was no one in the world who would ever listen to him. His eyes showed deep pain and loneliness. That's why the conversation started in a light and gentle way, to create a calm and friendly space where he could feel safe and ready to speak. Slowly, as the mood became softer and more open, the discussion moved step by step into deep knowledge, logic, meaningful thought, and the references and evidence. Hey, you seem a bit troubled. Everything okay? Maybe I can help.
Well, life feels kinda strange. Sometimes I wonder, what's the point of all this? Why are we here? This universe, everything. Is it just a random accident? Or is there really a creator?
That's an interesting question. But tell you what, think of it as me asking you a similar one.
It seems like maybe everything is just an accident. The Big Bang happened, galaxies formed, Earth came into existence, life evolved, and here we are. That's it. No creator, no purpose.
After thinking about it a lot, I think about it this way. Imagine you come to this park and see a beautifully written book on a bench. Each line is perfectly arranged, with deep thoughts and a great flow. Would you say that book just appeared on its own?
No way. Someone must have written it.
Exactly. So when you look at the vast universe, the stars, galaxies, Earth, the amazing complex system of life, and even your own ability to think, how could all of that have come about by itself?
But couldn't it just be a chemical reaction?
Let's put that aside for a moment. I've got some points I'd like you to think about too.
If I'm struggling to understand some things already, how am I going to get your points?
All right, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a tiny seed inside the earth? The first shoot of it is so fragile that a light breeze could break it. But it grows and breaks through the earth's surface.
Wow, that's actually an interesting point.
Have you thought about the fact that the soil where it was planted is tasteless? The water that nourished it is tasteless, and even the seed itself was tasteless. So how did it turn into a sweet, juicy fruit?
That's a good point too.
Rain falls on the earth absorbs it. Then the water goes into the roots. But somehow, in bananas, it turns into flavor. In coconuts, it becomes water. In almonds, it turns into the nut. In peppers, it becomes spice. And in olives, it turns into oil. One water, one sunlight, one earth. But how does it make such a difference?
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Have you ever looked up at the sky? At night, the stars twinkle, and the moon dims the darkness with its light.
Yeah, it's amazing to lie back, relax, and just look up at the sky.
Exactly. But has the moon ever collided with the sun? Has the sun ever changed its course? Has the sun ever risen from the north instead of the east? Has the whole system ever been out of order for even a moment?
No way. Everything is running smoothly with a perfect system. But what does this have to do with my confusion?
If we continue this conversation gently, with kindness and ethics, we'll definitely get somewhere.
Okay, fine.
If I told you that I wrote a book, but the trees chopped themselves down, their pages appeared, ink rained down from the sky, the pen moved by itself, and the book was complete, would you believe me?
No way.
Because you know that anything that's made has a creator behind it. So then, how could this universe, filled with billions of galaxies, stars, planets, moons, nebulae, black holes, gravitational waves, and invisible matter, just come about by chance? And the amazing thing is that for 13.8 billion years, not a single major flaw has occurred, not even for a second.
Wow. I've never thought about it like that.
Every wise person connects their life to some kind of purpose. But if there's no purpose to being here, then life becomes a meaningless game. Really? Are we just here to eat, sleep, and die? If that's the case, then what's the difference between us and animals?
But science says everything came from the Big Bang.
And who made the Big Bang?
Maybe some quantum fluctuation?
And where did that quantum fluctuation come from? What happened? Look, everything made has a cause. When you see a complicated machine, you immediately understand that someone designed it. So how could this great universe, with laws that are so intricate and balanced, come into existence without a creator?
Oh my days. Life. Sometimes it feels like we're just flowing in a river. Everything is happening, and we're just floating along.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, a book written with such depth, every word and sentence carefully placed. How could it have written itself? So how could such a huge universe, which operates in perfect order, have just appeared? Yeah, if it's that well organized, it can't just be an accident. Have you ever felt like everything is just flowing in some strange wave, and you're heading toward an unknown destination? Yeah, like everything's running by itself, and we're just part of some complex system. But there's no big truth. And have you ever wondered why we find it strange or meaningful? What do you mean? I mean, if life really were just a random game, why would you be amazed by it? Why would you feel the need to think about it? If we were truly meaningless, why is this question bothering you? Maybe because I'm looking for answers?
But why? If everything happened by accident, then questions themselves should also be accidental, right? So why are you asking questions?
I don't know. Maybe you do know, but forget that. Think about this. One tree gives a sweet apple, a lemon gives a sour one, and a chili gives a spicy one. One light falls on a rose and it turns into fragrance. Moonlight turns into a cool glow, and the sunlight on a snake's egg makes it poisonous. A bee collects nectar from flowers and turns it into honey. The silkworm eats leaves and makes silk, and termites eat wood and turn it into powder. Man plants a seed in the ground, waters it, and sunlight comes, and the earth gives back green plants. The same earth, however, hides a dead body in a grave, and no life comes back to it. Whether it gets water or sunlight, that's all scientific stuff, man. My question isn't whether it's scientific or not. The real question is, was all this just an accident? No way. But I still don't understand how it all happened or where it came from. Why worry, Harry? We've already agreed that there must be a creator, right? Yeah, okay. But who is he? Thinking for a moment. Let me ask you something. Do you believe in love? Of course, but have you ever experimented with love in a lab? Have you ever seen love inside a test tube? Or measured it with a microscope? No, but love is something you feel in your emotions. Exactly. Similarly, the Creator's existence isn't something material that can be observed through a microscope or captured in a formula. Science only deals with material and observable things, while the Creator is beyond that. But doesn't science tell us everything can be tested? Science is great, but it has its limits. For example, science can tell you that water consists of oxygen and hydrogen, but it can't tell you what is the true purpose of life. That's true, but just like science can explain how the laws of the universe work, but it can't tell us why those laws exist. Science can explain how the earth and sky came to be, but it can't tell us why they came to be. So you're saying we can't find the Creator through science? While it might not be able to provide an explanation, through science, we can definitely search for that Creator.
Bro, this is getting a bit strange. At first, you said that such an ordered, structured, and law-abiding universe could not exist by chance. That's totally right. Then, you said that everything has a maker, Just like a machine cannot create itself, so this world cannot exist without a maker. Exactly. But now, you're saying that science can study the universe, but not its creator. That also sounds reasonable and understandable. But if we can't know through science, then how will we find out?
Be patient, man. When did I say it cannot be known through science? I said that science only talks about material things present in the universe. It does not address immaterial things. Through the study of these material things, we can reach the Creator. We should think about it, because this is the biggest question of life.
You're making a fallacy here. Why do you declare the Creator to be immaterial? He could also be a material being. Generally, the principle is that something which is not material does not exist.
All right, good question, Harry. But first, tell me, what are the characteristics of material things?
Material things are limited in time and space. They have a size, they change, and they come into existence for some reason.
Exactly right. Now think, if the Creator were also material, then he would also be limited in time and space, could change, and would come into existence through someone else. Then he wouldn't be the Creator at all. He would also be a created being.
Yes, but why can't there be a very large and powerful force? That is a material being capable of creating the universe.
Being powerful is not enough. The real question is, how did it come into existence? If it is material, then it must also have a creator. And then that creator must also have a creator. This would create an infinite chain, the end of which is impossible, because there must be some first being that is not dependent on anyone, which can serve as a stopping point.
All right, I accept that material things are limited, change, and come into existence for some reasons. But still, isn't it possible that there is some extremely great and complex material existence that has always been and is not dependent on anyone?
All right, let's look at it from another angle. What is the most fundamental characteristic of material things?
They occupy space, they have components, and they are subject to the laws of nature.
Exactly. If some existence is material, then it must necessarily be present in some location, be bound by some law, and have components. Now think, if God has components, then he is made up of components, meaning he would be dependent on his components. And how can someone who is dependent be the absolute creator?
But suppose he is material and still not dependent on anything?
Have you ever seen a material thing that is without a law, not bound by any time or place, and not dependent on anyone?
No. All material things are either within time or subject to the laws of nature.
Exactly. If some existence is material, then it must also be part of some system or law. If it is part of a law, then it is subject to that law, not the creator.
So you're saying that if the creator were material, he would also be under some greater law?
Yes, and how can someone who is bound by laws be the creator of those laws? That's why philosophers and scientists agree that the creator cannot be subject to any law. He must be the creator of the laws.
So that means if the creator were material, he would also be part of some system. And then he wouldn't be the first being?
Exactly. Therefore, if there is to be an eternal, infinite, and self-sufficient being, it must necessarily be immaterial. Otherwise, it would also be dependent on someone, and it's impossible for the creator of the universe to be dependent.
Okay, this point is new for me. I will have to think more about it.
It's great that you intend to think about it, Harry. That's what intellectual honesty is. One should not accept anything blindly without thinking. But let's take another step further. If the creator were material, what would that mean? If God were material, he would be like your old phone model, which runs out of battery every 2 hours. What do you think the lifespan of such a phone would be?
So are you saying that if the creator were material, he would start at 4 o'clock and shut down at 5? Or the creator's like an infinite Wi-Fi, that is not visible but exists everywhere. Haha, that's really funny. You mean if God were material, he would show flaws like us and sometimes take a break too? Ahmed, my friend, this is very interesting. Indeed, the Creator shouldn't be material like us. If a material thing creates another material thing, it doesn't seem extraordinary. Only an immaterial thing creating a material thing seems extraordinary.
Exactly, Harry. When we look at our everyday items, like phones or Wi-Fi, we understand that things that are limited and show flaws cannot be the substitutes for a higher and unlimited reality. God is such a reality that is beyond our limited understanding.
Wow, you've made me laugh a lot and cleared my confusion too. Now I really feel like thinking more about this.
Look, Harry, if an engineer creates a computer, he doesn't enter the computer to say, "I was created by so-and-so." Instead, he provides a manual, user guide for that computer, which includes all the necessary instructions.
So, you're saying that if there really is a creator, then he must have given us some manual?
Yes, exactly.
If there really is a creator, and he has sent a guide, then how will we know which book is true? Because there are so many books in the world, and many believers believe in different creators. Now, which book is true? And how many creators are there? And among those creators, which one is the original creator?
That is the essential question. Every religion claims its book is true, but there are certain standards for truth. For example, we need to check: 1. Is this book completely preserved? 2. Is it conflicting with truth and rational arguments? 3. Does it make predictions that have come true later? 4. Is it in harmony with scientific facts? 5. Does it provide guidance for every aspect of human life? 6. Are there any S's in the book?
And which book do you think meets all these standards?
I have looked at the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, the Vedas, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, the Tripitaka, the Agamas, the Avesta, and the Bhagavad Gita, but I couldn't find any of them that combine all these points together.
So you mean you read all of this and none of the 6 points you mentioned are found in a single book? Really? But you haven't mentioned one book, and that is the Quran.
I was just about to mention that I found all these points combined only in the Quran.
Really? All of those points?
Yes, absolutely, all of them.
But this is an old book, and one of the conditions you stated for a good and complete book is that it must be in harmony with scientific facts. So, where did science come from in such an old book? Because modern science came long after the Quran.
Brother, that's the amazing part. This criterion is indeed present, and it covers every aspect of life. There is not a single in it. It is a completely preserved book. The things that modern science is just now discovering were already mentioned in this book over 1400 years ago.
You must be joking.
This is no joke. Those who follow other books know that these books are not in their original form. Their original languages don't even exist in the world anymore. But the Holy Quran is a magnificent book where every single letter, every word, every sentence, and even the sound of its recitation has been preserved to this day. And the language it was revealed in is still spoken throughout the entire world. What's even more astonishing is that the person who brought us this book was never taught to read or write by anyone. He never learned from any human being in this vast universe. Think about it. An illiterate man in a desert brought forth a book that contains scientific truths discovered centuries later, prophecies that came true, and laws that have guided billions for over 1400 years. This isn't just a book. It's a living miracle, a whisper from eternity that challenges everything we thought we knew about history, language, and the very source of knowledge itself.
Well, Let's talk about the other points later. First, do you have any evidence?
Absolutely. But give me 10 minutes. I want to explain it clearly. And please don't interrupt me. Listen with the intention to understand carefully. You have every right to raise questions or objections. As soon as I finish speaking, you can share all your thoughts.
Wait a minute. Let me get my notebook and pencil.
Harry, you told me at the beginning of our conversation that this universe is a result of the Big Bang.
Yes, I said that.
When did science discover this?
The Big Bang Theory was introduced about 100 years ago in 1927 by George Lemaitre, and scientific proof was found in 1964, which is about 60 years ago.
Okay, tell me, did anyone know about this theory 500 years ago?
How could that be? Absolutely not.
1,000 years ago?
Not at all. At that time, nobody could even imagine that we would ever observe space. Nor did anyone even have the concept of science.
Harry, what did you say earlier about how old the Quran is?
About 1,400 years?
Look, here is chapter 21, verse 30 of the Quran.
أولم ير الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون.
And did those who disbelieved not see that the heavens and the earth were a closed-up mass? Then we opened them out, and we made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? This verse is in complete accordance with the modern scientific theory, which states that the universe was initially a singularity and then split apart due to a tremendous explosion, resulting in various galaxies and planets. Science is now discovering that this universe has been continuously expanding since the Big Bang. Yet the Quran stated this fact over 1,400 years ago in chapter 51, verse 47.
وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ.
And we constructed the heaven with strength, and indeed, we are expanding it. Harry, now the surprising fact is that modern science, particularly the research from NASA and other space agencies, has proven that after the Big Bang, the early universe took the form of cosmic smoke or nebula. The entire universe consisted of gas-like substances, and it was from these gases that stars, planets, and galaxies were formed. This scientific truth was discovered by modern astronomy in the 20th century, but the Quran declared this exact fact 1,400 years ago.
ثم استوى إلى السماء وهي دخان فقال لها وللأرض ائتيا طوعا أو كرها قالتا أتينا طائعين.
Then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, "Come into being, willingly or by compulsion." They said, "We have come willingly." Quran 41:11. Here, the word dukhan, smoke, is used, referring to the initial state that modern science has discovered. 1,400 years ago, most people in the world thought the earth was flat, but no, the shape of the earth is not like that. Modern science says that it is not perfectly round either, but is an oblate spheroid. This means that the earth is slightly flattened at the poles, north and south, and bulges a bit around the equator. This fact was discovered by modern science, but the Quran hinted at it 1,400 years ago. Surah An-Nazi'at 79:30.
والأرض بعد ذلك دحاها.
The word dahaha comes from dahya, which means the shape of an ostrich egg. Interestingly, the Earth's shape is exactly like that of an ostrich egg. Harry, listen further. In ancient times, people believed that the moon produces its own light. But science has proven that the light of the moon is actually a reflection of the sun's light. The Quran states, "Blessed is he who made constellations in the heavens, and made therein a lamp, the sun, and a shining, luminous moon." Quran 25:61. Have you not seen that Allah made 7 heavens in layers, and made the moon a light and made the sun a lamp? Quran 71:15-16. The term munir means reflected light, while siraj, lamp, refers to something that produces light. Modern science has established that the sun produces light while the moon reflects it. Listen more, Harry. It was previously thought that the sun was stationary, but science has now proven that the sun is also orbiting in its specific orbit. The Quran states, "And he it is who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon. All heavenly bodies are swimming along in an orbit." Quran 21:33. This completely aligns with modern scientific research, which shows that the sun is orbiting around the center of the galaxy. Scientists have also discovered that the energy within the sun will one day run out, causing it to extinguish. The Quran has expressed this fact as, "And the sun runs on its course for a time determined. This is the decree of the exalted in might, the all-knowing." Quran 36:38. It is a clear scientific fact that the sun will not last forever. There will come a time when it will cease to exist. Harry, modern science has found that the baby goes through different stages in the womb. Amazingly, the Quran accurately described these stages 1400 years ago.
ولقد خلقنا الإنسان من سلالة من طين ثم جعلناه نطفة في قرار مكين ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين.
Indeed, we created man from a product of wet earth. Then we made him a sperm in a firm lodging. Then we made the sperm a clinging clot. Then we made the clinging clot a lump resembling chewed meat. Then we made from the lump bones and covered the bones with flesh. Then we developed out of it another creature. So blessed is Allah, the best of creators. Quran 23:12-14. The stages mentioned here exactly correspond to modern medical science. Nutfa, sperm and egg. Human birth begins from the sperm, as science has proven. Alaka, leech-like clot. The embryo initially takes the form of a sticky blood clot that attaches to the wall of the womb, just like a leech sucks blood. Mudgha, shaped like a chewed lump. The embryo takes on the appearance of a chewed lump, which can be clearly observed in modern ultrasound scans. Bones. Science has discovered that the bones are formed first, and then flesh is added, which aligns perfectly with the words of the Quran. This scientific truth has also been acknowledged by Professor Keith Moore, an expert in embryology, who has confirmed that the stages described in the Quran are entirely compatible with modern science. Gender determination, a precise revelation. Harry, do you know how the gender of a baby, boy or girl, is determined? It was previously believed that the mother's body plays a role in determining the baby's gender. But modern science has proven that this is done through the father's chromosomes, Y and X. A woman has XX chromosomes, meaning she can only provide an X chromosome. A man has XY chromosomes, meaning he can provide either an X, which will produce a girl, or a Y, which will produce a boy. This means that the male sperm determines the baby's gender. This is a recent scientific discovery. The Quran stated this fact 1400 years ago. Allah Almighty says, "And indeed, He created pairs, male and female, from a sperm when emitted." Surah An-Najm 53:45-46. Here, the term
نطفة إذا تمنى
means from a sperm when emitted, clearly pointing to the male sperm. The meaning of C's, a hidden barrier. There are many more arguments. Don't worry. I had asked you for 10 minutes. Listen, have you ever heard that at some places two seas meet, but their waters do not mix? Science has discovered that where two different seas meet, there's an invisible barrier that keeps them separate. But the Quran informed us about it 1400 years ago. Allah says, "He it is who has made free-flowing and salty seas meet, and He has placed a barrier and a prohibiting partition between them." Quran 25:53. This reality can be observed today at the junction of the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, where both seas meet yet remain distinct. Now think, how could any human know this 1400 years ago? Especially a person living in the Arabian desert who had never seen such a sea. Deep ocean depths, layers of darkness. Just a little more patience. Science has discovered that deep oceans are so dark that light does not reach them, and within them are several layers of waves that are different from surface waves. The Quran mentions, "Or their deeds are like a deep sea covered by waves, topped by clouds, darkness upon darkness. When one puts out his hand, he can hardly see it, and he whom Allah does not guide, for him there is no light." Quran 24:40. This is a fact that science has recently discovered. Light does not reach deep oceans, and they have internal waves that are different from regular waves. All these scientific facts have now been proven through modern research, yet they were stated in the Quran 1,400 years ago, at a time when modern tools and technology did not exist. The question arises, was this just coincidence? Or is he truly the message of the Creator?
Wow, amazing and interesting. You say that the Quran refers to the moon as nur, reflected light, and the sun as siraj, self-luminous light. But the truth is that even in ancient times, people knew that the moon's light comes from the sun. If this was already known, then this statement in the Quran is not a miracle.
Good question, Harry, my friend. You said that people in ancient times already knew that the moon reflects light, so the Quran saying this is not a miracle. Let's think about that. Did ancient people really know this? Not really. Most ancient civilizations actually believed that the moon produced its own light or was some kind of divine object. Let me give you some examples. Greeks and Romans. Many believed the moon was a goddess, like Selene in Greek mythology. Egyptians and Babylonians, they worship the moon as a god. Now, here's something fun. One smart Greek philosopher, Anaxagoras, 500 BC, actually figured out that the moon gets its light from the sun. Bravo, Anaxagoras! But guess what? Instead of people saying, "Wow, great discovery," they put him in jail and later exiled him. Why? Because most people did not know or believe this fact at that time. If they did, they wouldn't have punished him. Sources: Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, iep.utm.edu, Smithsonian Magazine, smithsonianmag.com, MacTutor History of Mathematics, Maths History at standrews.ac.uk. What does the Quran say? Now, let's look at what the Quran said 1,000 years before modern science confirmed it. "And we made the moon a light, nur, and made the sun a lamp, siraj." Quran 71:16. Siraj, lamp, a burning source of light like the sun. Nur, light, a reflected light like the moon. Wow, this is 100% scientifically accurate.
But wait, let's ask a very important question.
Okay, if this was common knowledge, why did other books get it wrong? If ancient people already knew this, then why did 1. Greek, Hindu, and Babylonian texts call the moon a light source? 2. Scientists like Galileo 1609 and Newton 17th century have to prove this again? 3. The Bible, Genesis 1:16 say, "Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, moon, and the lesser light to rule the night, moon. He made the stars also." No difference between original light and reflected light here. So tell me, if everyone knew this, why did they all get it wrong except the Quran? So, how did the Quran get it right? Here's where things get interesting. The Quran was revealed 1,400 years ago to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was an unlettered man, could not read or write. Arabia was not a scientific hub like Greece or Rome. So how did the Quran use perfect scientific words, Nur for reflected light, Siraj for burning light? Avoid the mistakes found in Greek, Hindu, and Christian texts? C. State a fact that science only confirmed 1,000 years later? Could it be just a coincidence? Or maybe, just maybe, the Quran is from a divine source? Final thoughts, and a little humor. Let's be honest. If someone in 600 AD was just guessing about space, they would have made at least some mistakes. But nope, the Quran gets it 100% right, while even big civilizations got it wrong. Go find me one ancient book before the Quran that correctly says the moon's light is reflected. And then, just like the Quran, it should also say that there is no doubt in it. Just one. The Quran refers to the moon as Nur, reflected light, and Munir, while the sun is referred to as Siraj or Wahaj, which correspond to self-luminous body in modern scientific language. Harry, you can see that this is not a trivial matter. Rather, it is a very significant scientific truth that was discovered later. Harry, you can see that this is not a trivial matter. Rather, it is a very significant scientific truth that was discovered later. If the Quran were a human endeavor, it would repeat the misconceptions of the people. If this were mere coincidence, then other ancient books should have had the same truths, but they do not. If this is not the message of the Creator, then why doesn't any other religious book state this truth? All these pieces of evidence confirm that this knowledge comes from a being who is the creator of all things, and whose knowledge encompasses everything. Harry, if you are genuinely in search of the truth, you should consider, could any human book have provided such accurate scientific details 1,400 years ago? Details that were only discovered later?
I am truly impressed by your strong arguments. Just think, a person who never learned to read or write, never went to a school or madrasa, and was born into a people who were all uneducated. How could he bring such an extraordinary message? In that time, although some countries had science, that knowledge had not reached the place where the Quran was revealed. And this man had never even been close to the places known for science. Up until he was 40, he never spoke of anything that revealed deep logic, philosophy, or scientific truths. Yet suddenly, at the age of 40, he presents a message that astounds great scientists and philosophers. His message contains knowledge that science could only discover centuries later using instruments and scientific resources. He presented a magnificent book, unmatched to this day. When people write books, they usually begin or end with a note saying, "If we made any mistakes, please forgive us. We will correct them in the next edition." But this man, who never learned to read or write, boldly states at the beginning of his book, "There is no doubt in this book." Then he challenges the whole world. If you have the courage, bring forth just one chapter like it. And he also says, you will never be able to do so. These statements compel me to think deeply. But one thing I still don't understand. If God truly exists, why can't we see him?
Tell me, do you have consciousness?
What kind of question is that? Absolutely.
Have you ever seen your reason?
No,
How then are you certain it exists?
because I can feel it clearly.
Exactly. Just as we can feel reason but cannot see it, the same goes for air, emotions, feelings, thoughts, love, hate, energy, time, gravity, sound, and various types of light waves, such as infrared or ultraviolet, and electromagnetic waves, like X-rays. All these things exist, but our eyes cannot see them because they are beyond the limits of our vision. So, do you think that the being who created all of these things can be seen with our eyes?
You are absolutely right.
Okay, let's continue. Let me tell you a story about a fish that lives in water. It has never seen the air, nor seen trees, nor walked on ground, and it claims that there is no land, only the ocean. Similarly, there was a blind man who said, "I do not believe in light because I have never seen it." Someone lit a lamp, but he still said, "This is all a lie. If there were light, I would be able to feel it." Everyone burst into laughter and said, "Brother, to feel a light, you need eyes, not stubbornness."
Wait a minute. I need to laugh.
Oh, brother, saying that is like someone claiming, "I can't see the signals, so there must be no TV channels." Ha ha ha. So it turns out that just because something cannot be seen does not mean it doesn't exist. All right, bro, leave it. We'll check it later. Science has discovered that plants also have male and female forms. Yet 1400 years ago, the Quran stated, "Blessed is he who created all things in pairs, whether from the earth or from themselves or from things they do not know." Quran 36:36. Tell me, who informed Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, of this?
Who?
Harry, you've asked a question that cannot be answered simply with words. Because knowing Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is not just about obtaining information. It's like meeting a great personality. But let me give you a glimpse that will make your heart say, "I wish I could see him."
Now, I really want to know. Tell me, who is Muhammad?
Imagine a society 1400 years ago where the powerful devoured the weak, where lies were commonplace, deceit was part of business, women were buried alive, there was no respect for slaves, and truth had become a dream. In the midst of this darkness, a figure was born, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, into a family that had no wealth but immense honor. He grew up and people began to marvel. This man does not lie. He never deceives. He never hurts anyone's heart. He always speaks the truth, no matter the circumstances.
Really? How can a person be so perfect?
That's the wonder. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, never attended school, did not learn from any teacher, nor did he open any philosopher's book, yet he became a sea of knowledge. He lived for 40 years among the people of Mecca, and his life was like an open book before them. No blemish, no stain, no mistake, no deficiency whatsoever. In fact, he was so truthful and honest that even the greatest merchant of Mecca, who valued his reputation more than wealth, entrusted his money to Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, because they knew this man cannot deceive. They themselves named him Al-Amin, the trustworthy, and Al-Sadiq, the honest. There was no one as truthful as him and no one as trustworthy.
How is that possible? People usually take advantage of opportunities. Wow. But did he ever lie?
Harry, think about it. How could a person known as the most truthful in the world, whose truthfulness was acknowledged even by his worst enemies, ever utter a lie for a single moment in his life? No, never! That's why when Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, declared, "I am the messenger sent by Allah," his enemies had no way to refute him. They knew that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had never lied. So why would he do so now?
This is indeed strange. So what did his enemies do?
Here's the remarkable part. Instead of denying his words, his enemies began to oppress him because they had no way to disprove him. Think about it, Harry. If Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, were really a liar, his lie would have been exposed in a few days. But he remained truthful for 40 years. And then when prophethood was granted, not a single finger was pointed at him for another 23 years. Listen to me, bro. Science has discovered that bees also have male and female forms. Only the female bee collects nectar and makes honey. The male bee does not produce honey. This fact was written by Richard Remnant in his book, A Discourse or History of Bees. But how did the Quran mention this fact 1400 years ago? Look at how the Quran states,
وأوحى ربك إلى النخل أن اتخذي من الجبال بيوتا ومن الشجر ومما يعرشون ثم كلي من كل الثمرات فاسلكي سبل ربك ذللا يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانها فيه شفاء للناس إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يتفكرون.
And your Lord inspired the bee, saying, Take for yourself among the mountains, houses, and among the trees, and in that which they construct. Then eat from all the fruits and follow the pathways of your Lord, which have been made easy for you. There emerges from their bellies a drink of varying colors, in which is healing for people. Indeed, in that is a sign for a people who give thought. Quran, Surah and Nahl 68 to 69. Pay attention to every word. Ittakhidhi, which is addressed to the female bee, instructing her to build her home in the mountains. Kuli, it tells the female bee to extract nectar from the fruits. Fasluki, it instructs the female bee to follow her Lord's paths. Rabbiki, it directs attention to her Lord. Butuniha, it specifies that honey comes from the bellies of female bees. Now think about it. How could a person who never learned to read or write and never studied under anyone express these scientific facts with such certainty and clarity? And in a book that claims there is no doubt. Tell me honestly, what do you think of a book that has already stated these facts, and a book that challenges others to bring forth something similar? Not a single expert in Arabic has been able to produce anything like it for over 1,400 years. What's wrong? Why are you silent? You ask, why can't I see Allah? But Allah has shown you His existence by mentioning the Big Bang, describing the movement of the sun, referencing the moon's reflection of light, and explaining the miraculous process of a baby's development in the womb. Allah has shown you His existence by revealing the shape of the earth and that the sun will one day cease to exist. If you still say, I haven't seen Allah, then tell me, what is the true meaning of seeing? I would argue that even things visible to the eyes can sometimes deceive you, but these clear signs leave no room for doubt. So can you now see Allah?
Oh, yes, but I have one question in my mind. Allah already knows who will go to paradise and who will go to hell. So why doesn't He send them straight there? Why put us through this life and trial?
Let me explain with a simple example. Suppose I have two students. After teaching them, I know that one will score 100% on the exam and the other will score 25%. So, I decide in advance that I will give the trophy to the first one and punish the second one. Actually, I haven't given them the exam yet.
What?
Yes, I've made a decision based on my knowledge alone. Now, the one I gave the trophy to will be happy, but the other student will complain. At least give me a chance to prepare. This is unfair.
Oh, now I understand. The one who didn't get a chance will say that this is not justice because he wasn't given time to prepare.
Exactly. If Allah sent people directly to paradise or hell, it would be unjust. They would not have any chance to perform good or bad deeds. Those going to paradise would be happy, but those going to hell would complain. Allah gives us life so that we can choose our actions, and then we receive rewards or punishments accordingly. This way, the decision is completely just, as everyone is given the opportunity to make their own choices in life. The Quran states, "He created death and life to test you as to which of you is best indeed, and He is exalted in might and forgiving." In 2 Al-Mulk, we will surely test you with fear, hunger, and a loss of wealth, lives, and fruits, and give good tidings to the patient. 155 Al-Baqarah. And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. 56 Ad-Dhariyat. Dr. Maurice Bucaille was a French Christian doctor and scientist. Initially, he was a follower of Christianity and focused primarily on medicine and science. However, his life took a remarkable turn when he learned about the story of the pharaoh and the discovery of his mummy, which is also mentioned in the Quran. In 1975, the Egyptian government requested help from France to examine the mummy of Pharaoh Ramses II because it was deteriorating. Dr. Bucaille, who was an expert, was part of the French team researching the mummy. When he examined it, he noticed something astonishing. There were salt particles in the mummy's body. This indicated that the pharaoh likely died by drowning in the sea. This discovery was shocking. Why? Because the Bible does not mention that the pharaoh's body was preserved after drowning, but when someone showed Dr. Bucaille a verse from the Quran, he was amazed. Allah states in the Quran, "Today we will save you in body, that you may be a sign for those who come after you, and indeed, many among mankind are heedless of our signs." Quran 10:92. This verse clearly states that Allah will preserve the pharaoh's body to be a sign for future generations. Dr. Bucaille was stunned by this revelation as it perfectly aligned with his scientific research. He realized that the Quran described a truth that modern science confirmed many centuries later. After seeing this remarkable correspondence, Dr. Bucaille decided to conduct a detailed study of the Bible and the Quran to find out if there were other scientific truths in the Quran. While reviewing the Bible, he found some statements that were inconsistent with modern scientific knowledge, such as those regarding the age of the earth and the stages of creation. However, when he examined the Quran, he found no errors. Rather, he found statements that were harmonious with modern scientific discoveries. After several years of research, Dr. Bucaille wrote a book titled The Bible, the Quran, and Science. In this book, he compared the scientific statements found in both the Bible and the Quran. He demonstrated that the Bible contains statements that contradict modern scientific facts, while the Quran encompasses knowledge that aligns with scientific discoveries. This revelation was not only astonishing for him, but also for many others, as the Quran was revealed 1400 years ago, long before modern science existed. As a result of his research, Dr. Bucaille concluded that the Quran could not have been written by any human, as it contains scientific and historical facts that would have been impossible for the people of that time to know. Ultimately, he came to accept that the Quran is a divine book, and this realization brought him closer to Islam.
I am amazed by what you are saying. But if you don't mind, Ahmed, can I ask a few questions?
Whatever questions you have about Islam, I will definitely give you complete, well-reasoned, research-based, satisfying answers to each of them. But for now, I have to leave. We can schedule this session for another day, God willing. For now, what did you understand from our conversation? Has your mind cleared up a bit?
Brother, I am amazed. How can a person who hasn't studied at any university, hasn't read any books, hasn't learned to read or write from anyone, how can he challenge such massive scientific research? And he is challenging it. He's challenging the entire universe to produce just one surah, just one ayah, like the book Allah gave him. The whole world tried then. His enemies were countless, sworn enemies who never missed an opportunity to humiliate or trouble Muhammad, peace be upon him. They had a golden chance. They were all masters of Arabic. Arabic flowed in their veins. They were experts in Arabic. Yet all of them together couldn't produce even one ayah. How can a non-Arab do it today? Even the Arabic experts couldn't do it. What kind of challenge was that from Muhammad? I am still just thinking about that challenge. Then I'm amazed that the Holy Quran, a book from 1400 years ago, mentioned the Big Bang Theory, and it told us how the universe was created. And now I'm also thinking, how did the Big Bang happen? Did someone bang it? And what was before the Big Bang? Was it gases? Science is only just finding this out now. But the Holy Quran has been telling us this for so many ages. And then, 1400 years ago, the Holy Quran said, we are expanding this universe, expanding it. This fact that the universe is expanding, science has only just discovered now. How did the Holy Quran know this before? How the child forms in the mother's womb like a leech, a clot of blood. Science has only discovered this now. The Holy Quran knew it back then, when there were no telescopes, no microscopes, no other medical instruments. How did the Holy Quran know this? The moon's light is reflected light, borrowed light. This fact too, science has only just discovered. Muhammad, peace be upon him, brought a book that, 1400 years ago, clearly stated this, and the sun will one day come to an end. This too, science has only recently discovered. But the Holy Quran told us this before, and this is the concept of Qiyamah, the Day of Judgment, in Islam, that the universe will end one day. Brother, when the sun ends, how can the universe remain? The same Quran that 1400 years ago explained how the Big Bang happened, what was before it, and how it's expanding till now, that very Quran also told us who caused the Big Bang. Science still has no answer to that. Then, the shape of the earth that you described, like an ostrich egg? I'm astounded. Scientists used to say it was perfectly round, but now science has researched and found it's not perfectly round at all. The Holy Quran used the term ostrich egg shaped from the very beginning, clearly defining its shape. Muhammad didn't go into space to see this, so who told him? At that time, the concept of space didn't even exist. The growth of a delicate seed that sprouts from the earth and bears fruit, despite the soil and water being tasteless. How water from a single source transforms into diverse tastes, substances, and oils in different plants. The precise celestial system of the sun and moon, which never deviates or collides. The impossibility of a book not being self-written, which is applied to the complex design of the universe and its flawless performance for 13.8 billion years. And I'm also thinking, even after 1,400 years, the Holy Quran is preserved with every single word, every single letter, every single line, even the sound of how it's recited is preserved. There isn't a single book in the entire universe like this, and I see people walking around who have memorized the entire Holy Quran by heart. I've never seen anyone in the whole world who is a hafiz, a memorizer of the Bible or the Vedas or any other book. But an 8 or 9-year-old child can memorize the entire Holy Quran. How is this possible? Even if the language isn't that child's native tongue, such a small child can memorize it. But a 100-year-old Bible scholar cannot recite the Bible by heart from beginning to end. Yet, an 8 or 9-year-old child can recite the entire Quran from beginning to end, sound by sound, word by word, letter by letter, without any difference.